Deena.
Yep.
And you can bring them up and hand them.
Kathleen is, actually it's not me, I'm just support role here.
I changed my password.
I went with the
I can guess it anyway, I don't care. I have to keep it kind of all the same. And we're trying to get that replay on. You sent it to me, but I'm not sure it showed up, so I'm just emailing it to you. Oh, no. Yes.
Hi.
I love your bow. I was probably a work session on that. I was so excited.
Calling to order the regular school board meeting of the Anchorage School Board. Today is Monday, December 18th, 2017. We have all board members present with the exception of Elisa Snelling, who may be joining us telephonically later. And we're also waiting the arrival of our Student Advisory Board member, Katy Spencer. To begin with, Ms. Marsett, would you please lead us in the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to start off by letting you know that in line with our Destination 2020 goal addressing safety and security, we share the following information. Restrooms are located at the far end of the hall directly across the atrium. An automated electronic defibrillator, an AED, is located across the hall in a white box, and a first aid kit is mounted to the wall by the second exit. We do not conduct evacuation drills during our meetings, so if an alarm sounds or an alert is announced, this is the real thing. Please begin to take safe action immediately. In the event we have to evacuate the building, there are 4 exit doors located on your right, and they all have a lit exit sign over them. Once you enter the atrium, proceed quickly along the safest route to a door leading out of the building. If you do not have a vehicle here or it's unsafe to enter your vehicle, and you need a place to wait for help, we have designated the parking lot next to the gas station as our rally point. If you see something that is dangerous, we encourage you to speak up and clearly alert the room of the danger you see, and we encourage everyone to quickly begin to take safe action. Information will be provided throughout the event as available, so everyone can best decide the safest action to take given the current situation. And for our monthly safety topic, Ms. Davis, would you please read?
The safety minutes. Is that what you
That's this part, yes.
Safety minutes for the holidays.
Could you pull the mic close to your mouth, please? Thank you.
Do not drink for the holidays. Do not drink and drive. Plan a ride in advance. Don't assume you'll be able to hail a cab. Know your options in advance and decide whether you would take the public transportation, use a ride and sharing service, or carpool with your friends or with a designated driver. Plan for guest safety. One option might be to hire a driver for the evening and provide people a way to get home. Do not use fireworks or firearms. Please remember the fireworks and the discharged firearms are both illegal in the municipality of Anchorage. Please be considerate to your neighbor and their pets and children by observing the law. As always, the Anchorage School District would like to wish you all, and all the employees, students, parents, and community a safe, happy holiday season.
Thank you very much. And for our Kiana, Dave, would you please read that?
Thank you, Madam President. Kiana means listen. It's a Central Yupik word for thank you. Is also the name of our site-based award of appreciation. Awards can be given to any employee or volunteer in recognition of achievement, service, or dedication. Kianas can be viewed or submitted by filling out an online Kiana form through the ASD website, and one Kiana will be randomly selected from the website to be highlighted at our bi-monthly board meetings. This month we have a Kiana submitted by Antiva Tavi Hamilton Oaks, and I'm going to read that, what Ms. Oaks, Hamilton Oaks submitted, Madam President. Kiana to Jano Walton at Bartlett High School. A friend and I attended the opening night performance of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and found the production to be spectacular. The hard work and talent displayed by the staff and the students was evident in this phenomenal night of theater. Please extend my gratitude to Janet Walton, the students, and everyone involved in offering this opportunity to Anchorage. I continue to enjoy the valuable contribution high schools make to the arts, and I am inspired by your dedication. And that is this month's or this meeting's Kiana.
Thank you very much, Mr. Donley. At this time, normally it's our Student Advisory Board rep who provides the opening statement, but in her absence, I will do it on her behalf. So we want to welcome you to our board meeting and thank you for attending and supporting the work of the Anchorage School District and this board. The board thanks students, parents, teachers, staff, school business partners, and the entire community for your investment in our district with your time, your talent, and your tax dollars. As partners, we will respect your time and make this meeting as effective and efficient as possible. If you are unable to be physically present for the entire meeting, you may choose to tune in to the Municipality of Anchorage's Channel 9 or YouTube to watch the live stream. Recordings of the meetings are also available through the agenda in board docs and are closed captioned in compliance with Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act. The primary purpose of the regular business meeting of the Anchorage School Board is to recognize excellence, receive reports, approve policies and contracts, as well as decide on the rules and processes followed by this board to facilitate orderly decision-making. The role is to govern, not to solve management issues. And if our student board advisory member shows up, Her votes we always take prior to an official vote. They are advisory only, but they offer a student voice to this body. At this point, I'll entertain a motion for acceptance of the agenda.
I move to accept the agenda. ASD memorandum.
No, the whole
I just
agenda.
move to accept
Whole agenda at this
the whole
point.
agenda.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any dissension? Then the agenda is approved as written. And our next item on the agenda is awards and recognition, and this is ASD Memorandum 100, recognition of the Fall 2017 Denali Award winner. Dr. Bishop.
Thank you, Madam President. The school board member Kathleen Plunkett will read the memo for Memorandum 100, recognition of Fall 2017 Denali Award winner.
Would Jenna Ellenwood please come forward? To Alaskans, Denali means great one, and the Anchorage School District is proud to have employees that display greatness in the areas of achievement, service, and dedication. This is the highest award offered by the district. Twice each year, supervisors submit nominations, and a panel of ASD employees select a number of coworkers and teams of colleagues that demonstrate outstanding commitment to the district's mission of educating all students for the success of life. One winner has been selected for the Fall 2017 award cycle, Jenna Ellenwood. Adored by her peers and her students alike, Golden View Middle School art teacher Jenna Ellenwood commitment extends beyond the classroom and beyond the school day. She is described by her principal as a high-skill educator and a gifted artist. Her ability to build genuine relationships with students, parents, and staff greatly influences the climate of her classroom and allows students to learn in a safe and engaging environment focused on self-expression. No matter the stage of artistic development with which a student enters her classroom, they leave with advanced skills, design tools, and conceptual knowledge. Her students are well prepared for their next step in their art education. When I first entered her classroom, I knew it would be a class I would look forward to in the day, said a former student. She was always positive with everyone and willing to help when I didn't know exactly how to do something or when it just came to giving me a small compliment about my artwork. At the strike of 2:45 p.m. each day, Jenna switches gears from an art teacher to a motivated and highly driven cross-country running, skiing, or track and field coach, depending on the season. She is also a philanthropist and shares her desire to address the needs of our community through the Empty Bowls Project. She and her students create ceramic bowls which are used as a part of an ice cream fundraiser to benefit the Food Bank of Alaska. Her love of visual arts and genuine care for her students is to be celebrated and commended, said her principal. The board joins the administration in recognizing Jenna Ellenwood as a Denali Award winner for the example of excellence that she sets for the entire Anchorage School District community.
Well-deserving, and what I've noticed is that our teachers and other staff throughout the year are true servants, because when we ask them to speak, they don't like it. And they really want to do good things for kids and good things for other people in that service, because it's truly part of who they are. And you are no exception, and reading your nomination was very fun for me to do, and I was just proud to have folks like you in the school district. And so we would like you to say a few words, and you can introduce this lovely family of yours as well. Your sons are about done with this whole thing. Awesome South High students, but we've been taking pictures of them all night. So here you go.
Hi.
Real close, yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I just wanted to say how honored I am to be recognized for doing something that I love to do, and I just am very appreciative of my family at Golden View and my family before that at Huffman Elementary, who were so supportive of my family, my husband John, and my sons Jackson and Sam, who are also very supportive of what I do, and I'm once again I'm very honored. So thank you. Thanks.
Would you like to say anything about your Sam? Sam Jackson? Would you like Jackson? Come on, yeah. No? John, how about you?
You'd like to say anything?
We also are very, very proud of my wife. She works very hard at home and at school, and we're very proud of you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm just honored to have the opportunity to work with Jenna and teachers of your caliber every single day at Golden View. So thank you for going above and beyond every single day and just living your passion every day and helping students achieve their success in life. And that's very evident in both the application and the students that we come across year after year. So thank you for your dedication, your hard work, and your sacrifice.
Thank you. Have a great Christmas. Thank you.
So at this point, we move to public testimony on non-agenda and non-action items. And the board welcomes public comments, and we value public comment as it both ensures that we remain aware of public thoughts, ideas, and concerns, and it informs our decision-making process. We have a table front and center with 2 seats and microphones available for testimony when I call your name. You have 3 minutes to testify, and you may begin speaking when the timer appears on the screen to your left and begins the countdown. When you have 30 seconds left, the number will turn yellow. When the timer reaches 0, please finish your sentence. So we have Tom Claymire on the agenda for speaking.
Good evening, Madam President and school board members, Madam Superintendent. First of all, I'd like to ask your indulgence on the 3 minutes, as you notice the room isn't as full as it normally is, and I'd like to speak on behalf of our 3,300 members, your employees, as opposed to just being public testimony, so I appreciate that. And I have a gift for waiting, so thank you. I was hoping to come here and congratulate ourselves on having a tentative agreement signed and ratified by our members and approved by yourself today, and that would have been a great holiday present for everybody, but our members have soundly rejected that. Despite all the work that was put into doing that on everybody's behalf on both sides, it didn't work out. It wasn't something that they were willing to do, and I put a lot of time into trying to think about what that means and why that is and how we can fix it, like many of you, I'm sure, and the questions as to why it's failed. And so while we're trying to gather that information from members and we're doing a survey, I'm going out to schools and trying to figure all that stuff out, so I don't specifically have that yet. I think overall I've made some observations that I think I can share with you. In the meantime, we'll be back at the table in January and hopefully be able to come to an agreement that works for everybody and most of all our students. I think it's appropriate that on the agenda you have testimony for action and non-action items. And as a social studies teacher, I can't help but think of the Tao Te Ching and Lao Tzu And often the best way to have an action is through non-action. So in testifying on a non-action item here, I think it's really appropriate because I think largely the angst and the frustration the members are feeling, and perhaps overall the reason the TA wasn't approved is because right now as a district, I think we're taking lots of actions that are really leading us away from our central goal in terms of it's actually distracting from the education of students. And to understand sort of the action, non-action piece, I mean, Lao Tzu spends a lot of time talking about governance, and the best way to govern is to not govern, right? The more you have to govern, right, you have to crack down. You end up with gulags. You end up, right, to force people into submitting, whereas the best government just does, right? It follows what he calls the way, and just governs naturally. And so people don't revolt, and you don't have to make them behave and submit and that sort of thing because it's done naturally. And we don't have to go to the east to look for that. Adam Smith talked about if we want to look at the most efficient allocation of resources, it's not when the government is controlling and allocating those resources, it's when nobody is, right? The invisible hand of the market. We let everybody decide on their own what their own best interest is. Or we can look out the window and we can, you know, you have an intersection in the road and we regulate traffic with a stop sign or a stoplight, and there's lots of accidents, and it actually is disruptive to traffic. In the modern design now, what do they put in instead of those things? Roundabouts, right? It's just a different way of doing things that lets traffic flow naturally, results in fewer accidents, results in smoother movement, allows people to get where they are supposed to be. And so I think this applies to the classroom as well, right? The best teachers are the ones that don't, you can't force students to learn, right? You can hit them over the head with lectures and with worksheets, and those, the more you try to force it, probably the further away you're getting from teaching and the lower the achievement of your students, right? Those teachers that do it naturally, that engage students by having interesting curriculum and instruction, that are collaborative, that build relationships, that are genuinely trying to facilitate students' learning, helping them, supporting them, those are the good teachers, right? We would say that, Lao Tzu would say that the best teachers aren't teaching, but their students are learning. And if we were to take this sort of to look at the bureaucracy of the school district, I don't think it's anybody's fault what's happening, but we have a system where, and one of the statements that's also made earlier is that the school board doesn't manage, but they govern. And I'm trying to figure out how do we move beyond the sort of the problem that we're in with management issues and how teachers feel and whether they feel appreciated or respected and valued, those sorts of things. When everybody here, we're all trying to do the same thing, but somehow there's this disconnect, right? And I think part of it does come from governance. And it comes from the idea of all of us wanting to fix things, to do an action, right? We've had 3 different superintendents over the last 5 or 6 years, and each time when you interview the superintendents, what do we ask? We ask, what are you going to do to make things better? When you face the legislature, what do they say? They say, what are you going to do to improve student achievement? And so the superintendents are tasked with doing something. They tell their central leadership, and central leadership tells their principals, and they tell the teachers, and we're doing all of these things. And so what ends up happening is that we're doing things that are distracting from education rather than just letting the education in the classrooms happen. My job as a teacher, obviously, and our other 3,300 members, is to educate students, and we're trained to do that. We connect with kids. We develop those relationships in the classroom. That's where the magic happens, right? And if I were to become a principal, I would think that my job would be to support teachers in doing their job in supporting students in their learning, right? And as a superintendent, right, so how does the superintendent best support principals, and how do they best support, et cetera, as a school board? Same sort of thing. Rather than focusing on our goals, focusing on outcomes, focusing on programs, the next thing that we're going to do to fix it, I wonder in evaluating our superintendent, because I think Dr. Bishop does a wonderful job, principals do a wonderful job, we're all dedicated to it, but incentives matter. And so in the evaluation, one of the things you guys talked about in the executive session was the evaluation of superintendent. And I think by all accounts, she's doing a great job doing what you've asked her to do. But I wonder if part of the evaluation includes developing relationships with employees. How well does superintendents, right, make their employees feel valued? How well do they communicate with their employees? And I think that's the governance piece that maybe if some of those things, the restorative justice that we talked about with kids, it's the same thing with dealing with adults and employees. And we're asked to understand that in a time of, I'm almost done, in a time of fiscal constraints, right? We all understand that we understand about the financial piece. And so I guess what I'm asking is for the board and governing to understand the other piece about feeling valued, about priorities. And I think there are a lot of ways the district can demonstrate that teachers are valued that won't cost a dime, right? If they're given control of their personal planning time, if meetings are minimized, if there's a moratorium on new programs and new curriculum that just fix. If there's, data is good, but when data mining becomes the end, instead of measuring the effectiveness of our education to inform our better instruction, then it becomes a problem. And so we're seeing sort of the tail wagging the dog in those many ways. So thank you for your time. And if I could, I'd like to present each of you with a gift. You may have recognized some of the literature that AEA has done recently that talks about the schools Anchorage students deserve. This book is by Alfie Cohen. It's called The Schools Our Children Deserve, Moving Beyond Traditional Classrooms and Tougher Standards. It's a little bit dated in terms of when it came out, but a lot of these fixes come from No Child Left Behind, and it gives us a way out. And this is part of a broader community conversation that AEA is going to be leading. We hope to start book clubs around the city, and whether it's this book or some other book that is selected by those groups, I think that conversation about students and about education is a valuable one. And if I could, I'd like to present.
And Mr. Quaymeyer, I don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth, but the value needs to be under $50 in order for us to abide with the municipal ethics code.
Yeah, I think these were like $12.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm not a big spender.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I think the communication from the president of the AEA was very significant and important given the circumstances, but I'd like to retroactively move to amend the agenda to allow whatever it was, an 8-minute presentation at this time by the president of the AEA.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any dissension from that? So we retroactively amended the agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
Thank you. And that's the only other speaker we had for non-agenda action items. Is there anyone else on non-agenda action items? Seeing none, we'll move on to our reports. And our first report on the agenda is our military report, and Colonel Knight is here to give that.
Madam President, Dr. Bishop, School Board, thanks for allowing me to come out tonight. Happy holidays to you. Hopefully this is I believe the last school board meeting of the year, so you'll be able to enjoy it with your families. It's a busy time of year at the installation. We do have people across the world, and as you can see from world events, there's a lot going on. I'd just like to say thanks to the Anchorage School District for the part they play in taking care of the service member children and providing a great education, and that plays a big part as we have people spread out all over the world. We'd like to report that we had a fairly successful impact aid drill this year, and while the numbers are not completely in, this is something that we've been working on since I was here in 2011, And we've seen an increase almost every year because of the efficiency, and so it's something that the Anchorage School District, I'll call them the finance area, has worked well with the installation to account for all the military members' children that drive impact aid, which is federal funding. And so we're hoping for an increase from last year, and we'll try to get that number. Of course, we're going to work with you guys, but I think it's a fairly significant number that not only helps the school district, but it does help educate our military children, so we're very appreciative of that. We'd also like to report some more community and school engagement. We have worked hard to partner with different schools, and we have recently, as Mount Iliamna closed, we partnered with the Tyson Elementary, and we're starting a new partnership there, which we think will be very fruitful as we start to look at some of the elementary schools there on the board of the installation. In addition to that, my deputy went out and met with Mountain View Elementary right outside the installation as we start a partnership there, and met with the staff and the principal, and we're looking forward to having the 5th and 6th grade students potentially out in early spring to show them the installation. So, with that, I don't have anything else to report. I'm open for questions.
Seeing none, thank you very much.
All right,
Happy holidays. And superintendent update, Dr. Bishop.
Thank you, Madam President. The first item on the superintendent update, I would like to call up Lou Pandolfino, presently our Director of Career Technical Education and the Principal of King Career Center. And part of looking at 21st century learning, Lou has been working with his staff at KCC as well as all Career Tech group at the district level and principals for a new design, if you will, to offer more opportunities to students. And with that in mind, I'm going to turn it over to Lou. We would like just to share the work thus far in hopes that we can continue to move forward in January. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Pandolfino.
Thank you, Superintendent Bishop. The short presentation on where we are right now in the transformation of Martin Luther King Jr. Career Center to Martin Luther King Jr. Technical High School. If we could, okay, disclaimer, we start with that. This is a work in progress. It's a lot of work converting a school. It's something that's real. It's very energizing for the community. We believe in what we're doing. We know there's a mountain of work, and we know there are things that we cannot anticipate right now. So we are taking it week by week and rolling up our sleeves, getting to work in this transformation. So there's our disclaimer. As you probably are aware right now, King Career Center is not a school. It is a program, if you will, or a shared school. Every one of our students belongs to another high school in the district and graduates from that high school. Our proposal is to keep that model, but add a full-time component to it and become an accredited school beginning next school year. We've crunched numbers, we've looked at facility space. We have the capacity to take 200 to 300 full-time students next year in the first year of King Technical High School. We feel it's necessary to rebrand for a number of reasons. King Career Center has served a wonderful purpose for 44 years in the district. King Technical School will take it a step beyond. And I think we're all aware of a stigma that comes with career and technical education. We talk to parents regularly who say, that sounds like a great program, but my child can't go there because my child is going to college. And we need to break down that stigma. We believe that if your child is going to college, then King Tech is where your child should be going, because you'll get a competitive advantage by learning, by having a strong academic program and a strong technical program as well. And we believe that our workforce is moving that way. We know from state economists that it does not take a bachelor's or advanced degree to earn a living wage in Alaska. For 84.9% of all jobs require less than that. Not all of them are living wages, but a great portion of them are. And we believe we need to get our young people prepared for the emerging workforce that's happening right now. So we'll keep the option for part-time students. We have space for that. We know that not every student can nor wants to attend King Tech full-time or graduate from full-time. But beginning in 18, we want to make that happen for 300 students. We'll start with, we have 8 key staff people going through a micro-credential right now entitled Guiding Students to Pathways. So they will be all prepared to lead students, our 300 full-time students, from where they are right now when they come to us as juniors or seniors to post-secondary, through high school to post-secondary to careers. And students with those mentors and with input from parents and other community members will be designing their own personalized learning plans. Includes their pathway, relevant electives that they have as passions, core classes, King Tech classes, it should say, internships and on-the-job training, and we're working very hard this year on expanding our internship program. District options outside of King Tech. Now that could be anything from single class enrollments in other high schools to credit by choice that they design, to relationships that we're building with the university for dual enrollment. And of course, digital learning. We expect that almost all of our students, if not all of them, will be taking some online learning at King Tech. And no, if you go back one slide, please, the on-ramps and off-ramps available. We understand that young people change their mind, old people like me change their minds too. Not on this, but in career decisions. So we will have off-ramps for students. If they find that what they've chosen as a career path is not what they want to end, and not where they want to end, they'll be able to switch before they graduate. We also think, though, by developing CTE across the district in younger grades and having more pathways presented on the foundational level in younger grades, more students at a younger age will be making career decisions when they get to 11th and 12th grade and get to us. Here's what we envision for King Tech students, that they're goal-oriented. They have some background in CTE. They've done some exploration. They have some foundation in CTE. They're self-directed, motivated, reliable. They have an interest and ability to create that educational path program, and they're willing to be a trailblazer, because this is new stuff for the Anchorage School District. And who might it not be right for? Students who haven't been engaged in school. It might not be right for these, with these traits. If they haven't been attending regularly, or if they have no idea where they want to go, or they're uninterested or unwilling to live up to our expectations, and we do have higher expectations, I believe, at King Tech than in most schools in terms of creating a workplace environment where a clean, neat, and professional appearance is an expectation, that reliability, punctuality, attendance is essential, and something we can't compromise on. That attitude and work ethic is our 2 traits that we insist upon with our young people. It's a pretty healthy environment there. You know, right now students come to KCC by choice, and none of them have to be there. And it changes the atmosphere and the environment. And so it gives us the opportunity to raise that level of expectation. We're also following a couple of my colleagues in the district, and we're personal device free for instructional time at KCC. We think we have to unplug and get those personal relationships going in interactions. And the last resort seekers, those who have tried everything and this doesn't work. We don't believe that King Tech is the right thing to do right now. We think they could come half day, or they can take some CTE classes at home schools till they find out what they want to do before investing themselves in King Tech. We've created a poster, and it has a lot of Q&As, and I know it's small. I apologize for that. I won't go through them all, but I know that you've previewed them before we got here. But we're generating more questions and answers as we go along in our presentations to our community. And we've had informational nights in November. Our next one is January 16th. Our online application will go live on the 16th that night. We have what we're calling evening showcases, January 3rd, you'll see the dates there, where all teachers or most teachers will be there in the evenings, and young people will get a chance to go in and be taught, we hope, from our current students about what's going on there while our teachers talk with parents. And then we plan 2 Saturday workshops, a little extended time where students could get in there for 4 hours and work with their teachers on some things and see what they'll be learning. And then our updates every Monday on the website.
And may I add as well, this idea began last year as we floated it, and as you know, King Career Center presently is not a school number. So how we learned about how that's a generator of funding. Yet we had over 75 students go there full time and take other courses. So this is kind of thinking, how do we create newness for students that they'd like for 21st century, changing some of the, what Lou said is some of the old technology that we used to have, he kind of mothballed some of his programs, understanding that he wants to open them with new rigor and new excitement, if you will, not necessarily rigor, but I don't know if that was the right word, to meet new standards of industry. And so he's pulled in partners, quite a lot of excitement about this. I've been in 3 different just presentations or community groups, and people have come up to me and said, I've heard about this internship. I want to get interns for my organization. So it's pretty good. I mean, it's the excitement's there, and the internship is something that the board challenged the district with to increase that. So we're looking at creating something new for our children to attend that will help them meet careers and college when they leave us. But at the same time, how do we do that without using assets or revenue from somewhere else? And part of it was thinking about the formula at the state level and saying, if that was a school, it would generate funds that would allow it to do that without pulling from any other place. So we're looking at, for this particular school, having those 800 to 900 part-time students continued, 200 to 300 full-time, and it will bring in an additional $1.2 million revenue for the district. And I'm just excited about what's happened so far. It's been pretty neat.
So, Dr. Bishop, can I entertain questions from the board?
Yes, sure, of course.
I have one right away because you talked about internships, and this goes back to something I've been talking about long before I was on this board when I was involved with school business partnerships, because we've had the gifted mentorship program for years, which even though we did reduce it with our budget constraints, it still occurs, but it was for a certain group of students, and I've been saying all along we need internships for all kids who want them. And so this doesn't quite cover every student in the district, but it does offer that opportunity for someone to have an internship in an area that they're considering as a career long before they step into that career. And wearing another hat here as a Rotarian, I know that our local Rotary clubs are working hard to build the interest and the opportunity awareness in our community. I see a fellow Rotarian in the audience who's working on this very project. And so I encourage you to continue this and to really, it's another way that we draw our community into our schools in a way that's a win-win for students and our community. And so I hail you for fulfilling one of my dreams. Also, I wanted to just have you, in one of the presentations, you talked about the graduation rate of students who are involved in career technical education. And I remarked that it was substantially higher than our overall graduation rate, but I don't recall the number. Would you please speak to that for a moment?
Yeah, 2015-16 data, 92.4%, I believe, are what we call CTE concentrators, those students who've taken 2 full credits in a pathway is our graduation rate. So it's substantially higher than the district.
Our 81.4, yes.
81.9, yeah, it's 92.4 for CTE concentrators. So students at a young age can make a decision on a pathway, stick to it, they get to the stage. And not only do they get to the stage, they get to the stage with an idea about where they're going when they get that diploma, when they get to the end of the stage.
And then one last question I have. is you'd mentioned the type of students you don't want to see, and you talk about those who've had poor attendance. And I do know in many cases that's a question of engagement. So how are you going to seek out those students who do have the potential to be highly engaged given the right curriculum?
Thank you, Madam President. Our criteria that we have laid out for King Tech admission is not too high of a bar. It's a 2.0 grade point average, juniors and seniors, incoming juniors and seniors, having earned a 2.0 grade point average, a 90% attendance rate, and are on track to graduate. They have 11 credits after their sophomore year, or 16 after their junior year. But we know that there are many students who are behind because they haven't been in the right program. So if they haven't met any applicant, any student who's interested in getting into King Tech and hasn't met all three of those, can come in via interview and to sit down and have a conversation with me or part of our team to talk about commitment and turning things around. And no student will be turned away.
And Madam President, might I add as well, the work that the high school principals themselves are doing with Mr. Pandolfino is that we're not going to wait to the junior, senior year for that engagement. They're looking at incorporating more career tech into younger students so that in ninth grade, that initiative and that interest occurs earlier. So it's not just core until you get to choose, that we're infusing some choice classes for kids in some highly engaged coursework that could lead to a career and exploration. And so that kind of meets that idea that career isn't only at KCC. Career pathways are at all of our schools. And this is just a specialization, more of a specialization as you get older if that's something that you want to do. But our goal is to build every school very strong.
If I may, Superintendent. With grant funds, we were able to take 5 of our comprehensive high school principals to Nashville to the ACTE conference, the Association for Career and Technical Education, in Nashville just a week ago. And we toured schools there, and they had been working on a model of CTE in their school district, Metropolitan Nashville Public Schools, for 10 years that is exemplary, and we are going to, and we're debriefing, our team's debriefing tomorrow, and we're going to be moving forward on trying to replicate a program and a district that works within CTE. And that is exactly right, that getting students exposure to CTE at a younger age is essential, and I think one of the solutions to anything that might ail public education. So that's our mission in CTE.
Okay, are there any other board questions? Comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Madam President, our next meeting, we will present a resolution for the board to be in support of a new school, and that way we can apply. If that's passed, we're going to allow 2 sessions for that so that we can gain additional feedback. And we will present that to the state for their approval. We have already discussed it with the commissioner, so he knows it's on its way as long as our board is satisfied. So this is just part of the process. The second part of my report is really an update, and I want to share good things in ASD, and this is just from 1 week. And so as I read through some of the items that happened just this last week, I want to imagine the 50 or 25 weeks that came before us, half the school year. And their people, our people of ASD are behind this. So just recently, Saturday, I attended Freezing for a Reason, and ASD students hit Goose Lake Saturday for a polar plunge to support the Special Olympics Alaska. All of our comprehensive high schools participated with their partners clubs, and I would just like to give a shout out to the Service High Cougars who raised $23,000 alone in one school. And Principal Frank Hauser jumped in along with 80 proud Cougars. So, yeah, give him a hand. I'd also like to share with you South High brothers, Aiden and Adam Concepcion, have nearly 90 wrestling wins and only 1 loss between them this season. Baxter Elementary School students and staff got baked holiday cookies, or received holiday cookies by Jay Bear's 673rd Communications Squadron. Chugach senior Daryl Snell is Alaska's football Gatorade Player of the Year, and he had a state-high 38 touchdowns, which led the Mustangs to the Division I semifinals. ASD choirs have celebrated at many community events, including Bartlett's Choir, who sang at the regional hospital for the patients and their families and staff. Kayla Berg will represent Alaska in the first U.S. CTE Presidential Scholars Award program. She's a student at KCC in the culinary arts at West, and as well as she's in West High's Medical Academy. Aquarian Charter School assembled care packages of cards, snacks, reading material, and other comforts of home for our troops overseas. KTUU featured Katy Zavigny and her band of high school art students from South Diamond and West, featuring artists bring white Christmas to downtown, even if the weather isn't. Also, the Lions Quest was on KTUU recently. They gave over $100,000 for the SEL programs through Lions Quest for our middle schools. And South's Yee is a triple threat. KTVA Sports Scholar, Athlete of the Week, KTVA reporter John Thompson said, South Anchorage High School senior Hanbit Yee is a renaissance man. Yee is a varsity defenseman for the state contender Wolverines, but he also earned first chair All-State at Awesome Music Festival, passionate about playing cello and playing hockey, and oh yes, we forgot, he also has a 4.2 average. So this is just the news of the week and the great things that are happening in our schools. It is the work of teachers and coaches and aides and principals and other supports that go into this success. And I'm so thankful and pleased with the work this fall. While the outcomes in regard to our business, if you will, of the district, still need work, and I'm going to stop and step away from what I've prepared, because we heard tonight some passionate testimony about working in schools and doing good things. And I wanted to share that not only the board has asked for student outcomes to grow. I've been approached by the NAACP and CITC and the Great Alaska Schools, and the answer for our improvement isn't just with teachers and principals and boards. It is really a community of effort to get things done. And we just shared a school who's working with it as administrator. I want to tell, last year when I shared the idea and understanding of we don't get any funds from the state for KCC, and it's such a great program for kids, and then we need to do more. I had members from KCC teachers saying, no way, don't change our school, we don't want this. And then I had other members meeting with me privately saying, please help us move our school into the 21st century. So our work to do things always by the adults is stressful, and I understand that. But it isn't without the adults that the work gets done, but it gets done for kids. It's really about the kids and how we're going to change their outlook, because we haven't always been successful with all of our kids, but it's not going to be administrators, it's not going to be the board, it's not the superintendent. It's all of us working together and finding that match. And the answers will come from the schools. Just as you heard a great leader, Lou, talk about the transition. He worked with industry leaders. He was an administrator, but the teachers and the staff of his school helped with this plan. And that's really the expectation from me. Not that it's a top-down, we're going to do this or that. We have to engender within the people of our district that our students deserve it. And that is my goal, not to make anyone miserable. Because I believe in the people, and they're fantastic, and they're giving their best. And I'm thankful for all the teams in our schools, in our offices, in our departments. And I just wish everyone a great holiday. We will do this together, and there are going to be 49,000 kids that are going to have a beautiful life because of it. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We will skip the student advisory representative report and move to our board committee reports. So we will begin with governance. Ms. Plunkett.
Sorry, let me pull it up. We met 2 times in December. We finished the 6,000s, which is instruction, the revised 4,000s, which is personnel. Went over the non-discrimination policy for consistency in both the 000s and the 5,000s. The first reading for all 3 of those is January 8th, and then the final reading for all of our policies is January 22nd. So I'm excited. Then we'll start working on the ARs, the administrative regulations.
And just for those who haven't been involved in this whole process, this started in April, and this has been spearheaded by both our board member Kathleen Plunkett and supported diligently by our Katy Grant, superstar school board secretary, as well as our team, and I think they deserve a round of applause.
It's been a dedication of love. That, well, it has. Or insanity. But the good thing about it, that I look at it, is it makes us consistent with the rest of the state, and it saves us money that we can then use for our kids, which is where we want it to be used.
And so those who don't understand, we have basically shifted the entire Anchorage School District policy to the Alaska Association of School Boards policy, with our own changes that were relevant to ours that weren't the same, but it makes it easier, and it will be all online and much more readily accessible and transparent for people trying to find what our policy is. And when she refers to the ARs, the administrative regulations, those are all also going to eventually all be housed in this same database. So everybody will be working literally on the same electronic page. So it's a massive job, but it's been well done and en route. There was not a finance committee meeting since our last board meeting, and Ms. Snelling is not here, so we will move to communications.
Madam President, communications met on the 12th, and we talked extensively about upcoming communications regarding bonds with the public, and we also made a decision to put off any action on the AASB delegate vote resolution that we passed, given the priority of the upcoming legislative session and communications with legislative leaders. We did a kind of a debriefing from the legislative briefing that I thought was really helpful, and we discussed doing that briefing with potential other groups in the community. And we talked about some various different groups that might be appropriate with. We reviewed our new communications materials, which I'm really happy with how those projects are coming along. The monthly newsletters for communications with community councils and PTAs, our new fast facts sheet. This is great work by our staff. I really appreciate that work, and I think it's giving us some very superior communication tools. And those were the priority matters that we discussed at that meeting.
And just an outreach of the communications work is there was an intention to nominate different individuals or groups or the district for different programs this year, and the communications department has been working very hard in submitting those. I know we just submitted a nomination for inclusive practices, and that had to do with our movement to our SBBS programs in 4 of our elementary schools.
Madam President, might I add, I nominated the Anchorage School Board for the action taken to assist in driving that outcome. And so that, along with the team who did it. So that was presented, Cindy, Catherine, and I worked on that, and we nominated this board for that award.
I didn't realize it was a board, thank you. I also know that the nomination was submitted to the National Association of School Boards for the choice opportunities, all of the different program opportunities and ways that we meet varied student needs in this district. So we will see where those nominations end up, but you can't ever win if you don't nominate. And so that concludes our committee reports, unless anyone has any final details they'd like to share, or conferences. We already heard from Ms. Marsett at our work session about her attendance at the restorative justice piece. So we move to voting on the consent agenda items, and I'll entertain that motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda, and I move to approve the, is that what we're?
Yeah.
Okay. I move to approve the expulsion of the student associated.
No. Number 2.
Okay, I've got them backwards here, but that's okay. ASD memorandum number 093 personnel report.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll open.
Could I just have a brief moment to get to that?
Oops. 093. It's the personnel report.
Thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please. Please vote. We're going to do that on board docs, correct, Katy? Mm-hmm. The motion passes 6 yea, 0 nay, and 1 not present and vote. We now move to a motion to reconsider, and I'll entertain a motion to reconsider ASD Memorandum 095, resolution supporting welcoming Anchorage.
I move to reconsider ASD Memorandum 095, resolution supporting welcoming Anchorage.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll open this up for board discussion on the motion to reconsider. Mr. Donley.
Madam Chair, you might remember that this resolution never really got a thorough vetting through the Communications Committee, so I'm open to opening it back up for whatever process we think appropriate this time. If we go to really major changes to it, I think it probably deserves to have a committee process referral.
Madam President, point of order. Did we miss our student hearing that we need to vote on?
No, that comes under action
okay.
items.
Sorry.
Is there other discussion? I do have a point that I want to make and hope this will influence board members to vote in the affirmative on this reconsideration. And that has to do with a word that was used in the language that was added in our last iteration of this resolution, and it has to do with the word assimilation. And I offer as an example why that word would seem offensive to some. And basically when it's put in the context of culture, cultural assimilation is the process by which a person's or a group's culture come to resemble those of another group, and it implies that immigrants or some native residents must become culturally subservient and indistinguishable from members of a dominant group. So that word, though I would agree that in past decades maybe didn't have the same impact, today it is considered pretty offensive to some, and so it is my intent when we get to, if this is reconsidered and we get to the resolution, to make some changes in that regard. Yes, ma'am.
And based on that word, that was the reason that I did ask to pull this and have it reconsidered within the 24 hours, which is through Robert's rules.
Mm-hmm. And the person who seconded that also agreed for the reconsideration, which is
yes, I did.
Feature. So is there any other discussion before we vote on the reconsideration and then bring the motion up again? Mr. Donley?
I recognize that concern. Just for the board's information, in the second paragraph that was added, the utilization of that word came directly from the Stanford University article that actually used that name in its title.
If there's no further discussion, then you are voting on the motion to reconsider, not on the motion itself, but on the motion to reconsider. Please vote. And the motion carries 6 yeas, 0 nay, and 1 not present at vote. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion for memorandum 095.
I move to approve ASD memorandum number 095 and adopt the attached resolution supporting Welcoming Anchorage initiative.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Before we move to board discussion at this point, we do open up for public testimony. The procedures for agenda item testimony are as follows. An action item memo was first introduced by the Vice President, as you saw, and it was seconded. Therefore, public testimony is open if you've signed up in advance, and I have a sheet here with a number of people who have signed up. I will call you to the table up front. I'll probably call 2 people at a time so that you'll be ready to speak when the other person previously has completed. You have 3 minutes to talk, and you'll see a timer on the screen to your left to monitor the time remaining and inform you when you need to conclude. After all the testimony closes, I'll open up the floor for board discussion. Normally we do the student board representative vote before we finally calling for the official vote. And of course, as you've seen previously, the voting results will be displayed on the screen. So the first person I have on who signed up is Erica Ninoyu. I think I've said your name correctly. How do you say the last name? Ninoyu. I had the accent in the wrong place. And Tasha Hutch would you like to come up and take the second seat? I don't see her here, so David Neese, would you please like to come and take the next seat? Oh, I see. I'm sorry. Yours is on a different topic. Okay. I'm sorry. There you are twice. So yes, if you'd like to take the second seat. Erica, why don't you wait a second till the timer appears? You may begin.
Good evening, members of the school board, Madam President. I thank you for providing this opportunity to voice concerns regarding your 2 amendments to the Welcome Anchorage resolution. Today, I stand before you as a member of MECAC, ASD's Multicultural Education Concerns Advisory Committee, and as an ASD teacher and community member who believes in a school district that values diversity, inclusivity, and equity. MECAC recommended the original resolution be presented to the school board on December 4th, but I represent many that believe your additional amendments are counterintuitive to the values of MECAC, ASD, and the Welcoming Anchorage initiative. The amendments are not culturally sensitive, written from a dominant culture perspective, stereotypes immigrants, and its diction is quite derogatory. Your first amendment states, one of the goals of Welcoming Anchorage program is to encourage the assimilation of new legal immigrants into our community by educating them regarding our civic processes. ASD's objective is not to assimilate youth and their associated communities into American culture. The ASD I value and the goal of Welcoming Anchorage is to accept all individuals of our community. Also, as stated in Dr. Bishop's joint letter with Mayor Berkowitz, earlier this year, I want to believe that the ASD offers education to all members of our community, whether they are legal immigrants or any other form of being. Your second amendment states the successful assimilation of our American culture, heritage, and language is a factor in immigrants completing more years of schooling, earning more, and being less likely to be unemployed than their counterparts. This second amendment stereotypes immigrants and infers that they are less successful than their counterparts. As a child of 2 immigrants, I know that my parents worked to overcome many barriers, but the phrasing of your amendment fails to recognize that many American expatriates enter this country as highly skilled workers, help our communities expand globally, and they serve as cultural ambassadors for our community. For the reasons stated and the negative connotations inferred within your amendments, I strongly urge you to retract your 2 amendments added on December 4th and approve only the original resolution MECAC recommends. The wording in the original resolution was compiled over many years of community work sessions since the beginning of the Welcoming Anchorage initiative and is therefore reflective of our community's values. Your 2 amendments do not reflect the voices and the values of our community and do not belong in this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. And I'd like to invite Judy Elledge to come up for also on the Welcoming Anchorage. David, would you like to do both of your testimonies now, or would you like to come back?
I'll do the other one because it doesn't flow.
When we get to that point. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so I'm running. All right, so I was here last time when you passed the original one. You made one slight modification, which I appreciated. And I liked Member Donley's presentation because a lot of the things that are in there are actually facts if you go study them. One of the things I was concerned about is when it went back to the mayor because they had a $26,500 grant from the New America Economy Principal Group, that maybe that was an issue, the assimilation word. But you know, their very first thing is that they're going to have secure borders and prevent illegal immigrants from entering by having more enforcement. That's their first goal, the grant writers for this, for the mayor's grant. The second thing is they have a simple system for employees. You're an immigrant, you're legal, we got a quick check, boom, you can get hired, you can get rolling. Removing a barrier. The third thing is it increases the opportunity to work. You're supposed to set up a system that allows people to come in and do temporary work that Americans do not want to fill. So far, nothing in there says that we're against people that are coming here illegally. You have to establish a path for illegals to become registered. They suggest you register. They suggest that you learn English. They suggest that you pay your taxes and you follow all the laws of the state and federal government. That's from the people that wrote the grant. And just to remind you that we have a United States that is a melting pot, and the reason for the melting pot is we bring everybody in, we get a better stew out of it. We all become Americans. And the fact is, after the third generation, generally speaking, that third generation identifies itself as an American without the hyphen. And it just lives up to what ours is, e pluribus unum, from many, one. That's it.
Thank you for your testimony.
Hi, thank you. My name is Judy Elledge, and I'm
1 second, he's just got to do the timer.
Okay.
You're just so fast.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
No. Hi, I'm Judy Elledge. I'm a 45-year educator. I started when I was 12. 8 of those were on the border. My first 8 were on the border in Texas. The last 37 in the state of Alaska, 16 were spent in the Anchorage School District as a teacher, and the last 17 years have been in rural Alaska as a principal, curriculum director, testing coordinator, coach, and a private consultant with low-performing schools. So I have worked with many immigrants. I am testifying in favor of the wording of the memo of 095. There is no more welcoming door than the door of the public schools. There is no gift we can give all students than helping each student succeed. A student that comes from another country has an even harder hill to climb. Our goal should be to help those students quickly and successfully fully assimilate in our great state and our great nation. Research is very clear that the better a student assimilates to their new home, the more successful they would be. That indeed is what I would hope would be our goal for all students. When faced with the question of these 2 words, I did look them up. Assimilation is generally defined as adopting the ways of another culture and fully becoming part of a different society, whereas integration is typically defined as incorporating individuals from different groups into a society as equals. The difference is subtle but significant. Words do matter. For example, I would like to end my testimony. Let's imagine if 500,000 Britons immigrated to America and they only knew how to drive on the left side of the road. We must help them learn to drive on the right side of the road. For as immigrants to the U.S., they're expected to learn enough about our American culture to be able to obey the law and participate in the commercial and civic life of this nation. That is a reasonable expectation. Assimilation cultivates success for newcomers and prevents that head-on collision that results when everyone drives in opposite directions on the same side of the road. Most importantly, it's what turns immigrants into Americans. Yes, words do matter. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. And that's all that I have signed up. Is there anyone else in the audience? Yes. Would you like to come up for the second seat? I'll have someone coming before you. Yes. Yes, and could you please state and spell your name for the record?
Sure, my name is Itzel Jarger, I-T-Z-E-L-Z-A-G-A-L.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My testimony is about actually 2 words in the amendments. The first one is the term legal, because I feel that the school district is not immigration, so it shouldn't qualify or take on those capacities, because there is a special department to do that. It's not the school district capacity. So I feel that you're going to use the word immigrant, resident, or even refugee, it shouldn't be qualified for the, by the word legal or illegal. The second one is as well, it's as well assimilation. And I think nowadays and as a result of the effects of those words, not only Native Americans, but many immigrants and refugees in this country and many other parts of the world have felt the negative effects, because assimilation is equal to the loss of your culture. I have a citizen son that I want him to feel proud of being here, growing here. Half of his heritage is from here, but I want as well for him to feel proud and for what he is as well, the other part of it. So I would like to see something more like multiculturalism instead of that we can coexist. It's United States has always been multicultural since its origins. It's like food. Only in this country you can eat Thai, you can eat Vietnamese food, Mexican food, and all. So we can coexist, and assimilation definitely has a negative effect. It has the message that you are only accepted if you identify as, as the as the United States, and that mainly is as a white, culture. So I really would like to see some actions as well in the future, because I feel like hate starts in culture, in schools. So I applaud you, and I'm really happy to see all this work put on, because as well, peaceful communities start in the schools, and the nonviolent communication and everything starts at school. So I really give you my respect, and I recognize you for all this hard work. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Please state your name for the record.
Hi there, my name is Deena Mitchell, and I just would like to also say that, reinforce what the previous speaker said. The ASD is a place that welcomes every child in Anchorage, and I think whether that child is illegal or legal, are we going to turn illegal children away and let them sit on the street and or sit at home and not have an opportunity for an education? I don't think that's what we're about. I don't think it's our job to look into that, and I also really strongly feel that there's been a lot of work done on the Welcoming Anchorage language, and we should really honor that. So if there are changes to be made, I think it needs to be done within the context of the Welcoming Anchorage Committee, not just the school board. And as the child of 2 immigrants who came to the U.S. when they were adults, I feel very strongly that immigration is something that really makes our country strong, and we really want to respect the cultures of our immigrants and support every child in Anchorage. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else wishing to testify this evening? Seeing none, I am closing public testimony and opening board discussion.
I am trying to look here for the initial resolution, and in our last meeting, this is that. So I'm trying to find the original, and can we take, pardon me?
Well, the amended version is posted, but it was, whereas 12 and 13 were the ones that were added. Everything else is
right, the same. But I want to see the original version, if possible.
I can assist with that, because I just passed a document out about a motion I'm going to make when you are finished speaking, but it shows you the original language. That's what's in italicized in parentheses.
Okay.
And those are the two the 2 clauses that were added on.
Okay, so we added on assimilation of new legal immigrants.
No, we added these 2 paragraphs.
Oh, okay, I see.
They were paragraphs 12 and.
Okay. Well, I think And I know one of our board members has a, that has a amendment they'd like to make, but I'd also like to make an amendment. And my amendment is that we go back to the original version and accept that as is.
I'm looking for a second.
Taking the original version that was presented to us from the MECAC, the Multicultural Education Advisory Committee.
Second. It's moved and seconded. So I'm opening discussion on the amendment. I do need to clarify that I did make a small change on the first line where it said that we were one of the most diverse communities in the country. We changed out most and said we were a diverse community in the country because it is actually an inaccurate interpretation of the research done by the university professor about the fact that, yes, we do have some of the most diverse high schools and we do have a diverse neighborhood, but our entire community does not truly fit in that category. There are many more communities in our nation that are more diverse than ourselves. Any other discussion on the amendment to the motion? Mr. Donley?
Well, the first paragraph in question, other than how different people can interpret the word assimilation, which different people have different versions of what that can mean, was based on the testimony they offered the night they came before us. I specifically asked a question if this was one of the goals, and they answered yes. The second part is more factual because it's the result of a Stanford University study, that's actually what the results of the study were. So I think they're appropriate to be in there. I also think that, as I mentioned earlier, we didn't have the benefit of having the committee process for this, and I would welcome that.
So, given yes, we are one of the most diverse communities. We aren't the most diverse. I would agree with that. But I also know that that committee has been together for a long time. It represents different cultures and communities. And, you know, I really feel that they probably are more the expert on how this should read than us as a group of board members, because they are actually living it and doing it.
I'll just add to the discussion, even though this is not a motion, we're speaking on the motion to exclude paragraph 12 and 13 from the motion as it reads. My idea was to change the wording in paragraph 12 from assimilation of new legal immigrants to inclusion of immigrants. So I'll read the paragraph with a potential new wording. Whereas one of the goals of welcoming Anchorage program is to encourage the inclusion of immigrants into our community by educating them regarding our civic processes, and then here's the change in paragraph 13. I wanted to change the word assimilation to the word integration, so it would read, whereas the successful integration to our American culture, heritage, and language is a factor in immigrants completing more years of schooling, earning more, and being less likely to be unemployed than their counterparts. So again, to restate, in paragraph 12, the assimilation of new legal immigrants will be changed to inclusion of immigrants, and in paragraph 13, assimilation will be changed to integration. So even though that's not the motion we're dealing with right now, I wanted to tell you that was my intent once we determined whether or not this motion passes, is the wording change that I had included. And I do take a little bit issue with what you said, Ms. Marsett, about we wouldn't understand these things. I'm also a child of a first-generation immigrant, and I'm married to an immigrant, and I have spent a substantial amount of times living and teaching in other cultures too. So I feel I do have a sensitivity to many of these issues. I do support wholeheartedly the Welcoming Anchorage program, and so I'm interested in this being a statement of the board. We did indeed ask MECAC to draft some language that is used to inform the board, but this is not the MECAC resolution, this is the Anchorage School Board resolution. Yes.
when we would be, if we would be going back to the original, we would not have the, we would not be saying one of the most diverse.
Right.
That would be a separate item. But I agree with what you were saying as well. My father is an immigrant as well as, and served in both the Norwegian Army as well as the Marines. So, it does give you a different perspective, especially as a child growing up with an immigrant. Actually, I quite enjoyed it, but it is different.
Mm-hmm. So my comment wasn't to offend anyone, and so I do apologize because of course, my people come from, are immigrants also from different countries. That's, how we all get here. And I will make an amendment to my amendment, and that is that we should change the wording to one of the most diverse, or to the most diverse school district to one of the most.
Well, that's the original wording.
Why, I said I'm amending.
No,
my amendment.
one of the most.
I mean,
the wording as it was changed is we are a diverse community of many.
Okay.
We need to get the exact wording out. Can we get that resolution
So why
put
can't
on
we
the
say
screen?
one of the most?
I'm going to call a recess for a second so we can get the wording up so that we aren't playing this word volley back and forth. A 2-minute recess.
What she meant.
Not now. Okay, I can have everyone back to the dais. Board members? We can't. We have a motion on the floor.
I have a motion.
So our original motion maker wants to amend her motion, so I need to make sure the person who seconded it is in accordance with her friendly amendment, and that would be Ms. Davis.
I'll go along with it, but I thought we were
Okay.
bringing this back before we took any action. I thought you just bring
And
it
you
back
want
to take action.
you want to make another amendment to this amended motion?
I don't want to.
No, I'm talking to Mr. Holleman, who has his hand up.
I'm ready to say we should send it to committee
So he wants to send it to committee.
to come back again, rather than us try to wordsmith it from the floor.
So he wants to send it to committee. It's a form of tabling. I do need a second on that.
I will second it if this is something we'll do it. I thought first we had to bring back what we were working on, and we still can come back and have them make a motion.
Not when they call for a tabling or a move to committee. I don't see a second for that? Or are you seconding his moving to committee?
Yes.
Okay. So we vote on that. So members, please vote. Give Katie a second to get it up.
Which committee?
Communications. I'm assuming, Mr. Holleman, for clarification, are you referring to Communications Committee?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now, Bill Renders, you may vote. And the motion passes 4 yea, 2 nay, and 1 not present at vote. Okay, so that is moved to communications, and just for clarification, Mr. Donley, when is the next communications meeting?
We were just going to set that for about the third week, or 16th of January.
Okay, thank you very much.
But we were still, it might be the week after that, depending on potential conflicts.
Okay, we'll wait for that further information, and that will be posted on the school board site that date. Okay, moving on in our agenda then to action items. Ms. Vice President.
I move to approve ASD memorandum number 090.
Nope, we gotta do the student hearings.
Oh, I'm sorry. Student hearings. I move to approve the expulsion of the student associated with incident number 1244119 as discussed in executive session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Board members, please vote. And the motion carries 6 yea, 0 nay, 1 not present at vote.
I move to approve ASD memorandum number 090, the allocation of up to an additional 12 FTE full-time employee teacher assistant positions to be utilized by special education department as needed to meet the needs of the expanded student population.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Open this up for public testimony. Seeing no one wishing to testify, I'm closing public testimony, opening this up for board discussion. Closing board discussion. Board members, please vote. And the motion carries 6 yea, 0 nay, 1 not present at vote.
I move to approve ASD Memorandum Number 089 and authorize the superintendent to prepare the Anchorage School District's FY 2018-19 preliminary financial plan and budget in accordance with the financial projections and budget guidelines set forth in this memorandum.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Opening this for public testimony. Public testimony is now closed. Board discussion is open. Closing board discussion, please vote. And the motion carries 6 yeas, 0 nay, and 1 not present at vote.
I move to approve ASD Memorandum Number 086 and approve the renewal of the charter for Winterberry Charter School for an additional 10 years through to the 2028-2029 school year.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I'm opening this for public testimony. Now closing public testimony. Board discussion is open. Closing board discussion. Members, please vote. And the motion carries 6 yeas, 0 nay, and 1 not present at vote. And I'm going to take a 1-minute recess because we have to sign the documentation to continue their charter. 1 minute. May I have Megan Judge please come forward as chair.
Memo 75.
It's just a report.
Just a report, no vote.
Yep.
Congratulations. Thank you so much. Just one.
And the charter has been signed. Now you can clap.
I move to approve ASD Memorandum Number 080 and adopt the tentative agreement between the district and Anchorage Council of Education, American Federation of Teachers, ACE-AFT, which will establish terms and conditions of employment for individuals in this unit during the period between July 1st, 2018 and June 30th, 2021.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I'm opening public testimony. We do have one individual signed up for testimony. Mr. Neese, would you please come to the table?
Right, and Kathy has some papers that I had you ran off of you guys. It's easier to follow the numbers if you get the playbook. All right, so as a board, you have a fiscal responsibility to the citizens of Anchorage and to your employees. So you have to kind of look at how things went. One of the last meeting I was here, there's an interesting statement by one of your employees that said that they had been at the bottom of the step and lane since 1999, so they hadn't actually gotten an increase. But when I looked it up in the payroll data, they went from 118,000 to 123,000 in salary and benefits, and that's about 1% a year. That's what that little step and lane thing's supposed to do, take care of the people that don't have movement. In the rest of your employees, it's much higher than that. So your base compensation did indeed go up 3%, but your medical went up 9%, which gives them a 4.7% over that 3 years of that contract. So when you go out to the public to be transparent, you need to say it's going to cost us 1% a year plus their step and lane, so it could be higher than that. It's been higher than that for 20 years. So when you say, yeah, we changed the step and lane 1%, okay, but your actual effect on your budget is huge. So let's take a look at the ACE one. That's that little dotted line going across the bottom of the first page. You announced you had a salary that had a 0.75%, a 1%, a 0.5% pay raise. So you had 500 employees in 2013 at the beginning of the contract. You paid them $24.9 million. You gave them $13.8 million in benefits. It cost you $38.8 million. That's a number you can work with. Then you let about 3.4% of them go. So with the little steps in there, your whole salary thing should change about 1%. Because you've got 3.5 minus the 2, okay? So what actually ended up happening is in your 500 employees, which are now 483, they're costing you more than 500 employees cost you. How can you balance a budget if you continuously give raises? You raise their salaries 5.6%. You raise their benefits 9.37%. That gives you an overall average of 7.1%. So when you're letting these contracts and you look at the little boxes for step-in lanes, and that's the only thing you're looking at, and you're not looking at the amount that contract is going to cost you over 3 years, you're not doing your job for the taxpayers in Anchorage. And you have to do that job. I would like to see a report when you get done getting rid of these 5 contracts of how much did it cost us on the last set and how much do you anticipate it's going to cost you at the end of the 3 years, so you can look far down the lane and go like, man, we just obligated ourselves to $10 million in the hole. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else in the public wishing to testify on this memo? I'm closing public testimony, and board discussion is now open. Mr. Donley?
I guess I was really trying to follow the testimony on that, and I didn't see completely how it applied to the contract before us. Maybe the superintendent could comment on that.
Through the president to Member Donley, when we have reported these to the board, the increase in COLA or cost of living has been 0, but we have reported increases to insurance as well as lane and step, and that's when we give you the total increase over 3 years and the total cost of the contracts. We actually do report that to you on those forms. So we understand. Even this year, we've been sharing, we don't have a contract yet for our largest group, which are the certificated employees, AEA, yet there's already been an expenditure because of the step and lane. So we did move forward with those. So I believe, I'm not sure about the prior contract, but the meetings that we have been in, the total cost of the contract is published. And that is not the COLA, because it is 0, but it is step and lane.
Mr. Donley.
But step and lane only applies to present employees. New employees would start at the same base as the year before.
Madam President, new employees can come in with years of experience. It's a shame sometimes that it's only 4, because we have some great people that look us over because they can't bring in more. And then with some positions, because there isn't necessarily a pay for experience or education, there isn't a lane movement essentially for administrators for more education. So unless it's a doctorate, so many times it's a negotiation of a starting point there and then moving on. But for certificated employees, our largest group, they can bring in 4 prior years of experience. So they wouldn't necessarily, plus their education. So they don't start at 0 unless they're brand spanking new.
But still, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam President. But still, the 4th, so let's say they used all 4 years, the step they came in at would be the same as that step the prior year, as far as the amount.
If they worked for us for 1 year, they would get a step increase for 1 year experience, yes.
Is there any other discussion from board members? Seeing none, closing board discussion, please vote. And the motion carries 6 yeas, 0 nay, 1 not present at vote. And that concludes our action items, and we move to the non-action items in our agenda. Is there any memo that board members wish to pull for discussion? Seeing none, I would like to pull Memorandum 102, the naming of the Bartlett High Cafeteria in honor of Tanya Taylor Winchester, and open that up for public testimony. Mr. Prince.
Good evening, board members, family and community members, family and friends and supporters of our new cafeteria being named in the honor to honor the life and memory of Tanya Taylor Winchester. I provided the board with some documents of support, and I had tried to organize tonight's presentation and struggled to find some words that didn't dwell on a life that has gone too soon. So if I falter tonight, please give me some grace as we proceed. I thought it would be good to pull some yearbook pictures, and as my own special tribute to Tanya, as I've known her for 16 years, taught with her in the school. It's been my honor to be her colleague and be her principal, watch her work with students. So I took some liberties. I hope you don't mind, George and Addie. That's Tanya's picture of her as a freshman at Bartlett High School some 30 plus years ago, and then to the right is her one of the most recent in memory, the yearbook picture of her on staff. She did graduate from Bartlett High School in 1988, and then after she came back and became an educator in 1998, she then taught at Bartlett High School for 19 years. You don't really know the impact that someone has on a community until that person is taken from you. And in this case, it was too early. For myself and the members of our faculty and staff and community, I can say that going to her memorial and her funeral service just showed exactly the impact that her life and everyone around her felt. Once I was approached by our building BPO, Ken Blake, who wanted to do a memorial in the building, and then I had a request from a student who is here tonight, Brianna Bundick Kelly, who said that regardless of the classes that she taught, she loved every child at the school, whether she taught them or not. She was the ray of sunshine at Bartlett High School and will always be there. When I think of the experience going through there, helping her family and friends pack up her classroom and watching her sister LaToya find some red pepper flakes in the classroom, and then hearing the community outpour of support, that she was very involved, as you can see by these slides, when she was a student there doing good things, which I actually thought was pretty poignant to what we're doing now at Bartlett, that she was involved in clubs and sports and organizations and was an avid cheerleader, and her family put four students through Bartlett High School to create Golden Bears, and I think the running tally was at one point there was a Taylor in the building for 12 years. Riding back in the limo with Addie and George, her parents, we were playing a football game in the state playoffs, and Addie, I don't know if you remember this, but you had turned to me and said, you know, how's the team doing right now? And honestly, it was like the furthest thing from my mind. And I just said, you know, I'll turn my phone on and check, and I was like, we're winning, we're beating Lathrop, and I gave him a score, and I was like, all right, go Bears. And given this opportunity, I feel that we have the full support of retired faculty, Bartlett alumni, the students, the Greater Fellowship of the Baptist Church, the Ladies Auxiliary of the Veterans for Foreign Wars, Post 9978, the Alaska Disabled Veterans Support Program, Xi Phi Omega Chapter Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, the Anchorage Public Library, Board of Advisors, and the Tanya Taylor Winchester family. I would really appreciate if you would support us naming our new cafeteria after Tanya Taylor Winchester.
Thank you very much for that testimony.
Madam Chair, President?
Yes.
This will be an action item at the next meeting?
Yes.
And I'm not going to be here, but if I was here, and I hope somebody else does this, I think it'd be appropriate to add another paragraph that just specifically said that the cafeteria ought to bear some sort of designation.
A plaque,
a plaque or a name over it or something that really establishes that the history here and who it's named for.
I'm going to defer to the superintendent. Is that something that is commonly done when a facility is named after an individual?
Yes, Madam President, it is, but I would be delighted to update the resolution before the next meeting as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any further comments from board members? Thank you. So we move then to future items or future business. Do any board members have requests to make for calendaring on our future meetings? Mr. Donley.
Madam Chair, I continue to be concerned regarding the presence of marijuana within our schools. I would like to hear back from the administration about how big a problem it is and whether it's relevant, what's happened in the recent years since the legalization. I'm particularly concerned about edibles, but in speaking to some of the resource officers, it seems like other things are more prominent even than edibles, but I'd be very interested. So if it could be broke out and identified edibles and non-edibles, that would be very interesting and important to me also.
Okay, and in keeping with our policy, do I have a second on that? Yes, thank you very much. So we will bring that up for discussion at our scheduling meeting tomorrow. Moving to another section of public testimony on non-agenda and non-action items. There's anybody who wishes to testify? Seeing none, we move to school board and administration comments. Is there any school board member that would like to? Yes, Ms. Plunkett.
I know that the administration passed out the information to all the school counselors as well as to SAB for the AASB scholarship for the June Nelson Memorial Scholarship. But I just want to give a reminder just in case a senior was to miss it, that the period for the AASB scholarship is open now, and the due date is March 12th. It has an essay, and it's all online. There's a lot of information on there, and it's at aasb.org. So it's $1,500 for the first year if you get it, and we also have, as a part of that, as a continuing student, we give a couple of scholarships as a second-year continuing student as well. So it's definitely something to look at, because college costs are not cheap, and every little bit helps. So, but it's actually kind of fun reading them all. I can't obviously vote or score any for Anchorage, but I'd sure like to see Anchorage have a lot this year.
Other comments from board members? Ms. Marsett.
I just want to say I had the opportunity to be a robot this last couple of weeks over at Central Middle School for their STEM challenge. And I've been called a lot of things, but not a robot. So that was a first, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. The kids were great, and I wish I could have stuck around a little bit longer, because after that exercise, they were going to start doing the programming on their own to see how they could do. The other thing is I'm starting to visit the schools for their holiday events and choirs and music and that sort of thing, and there's nothing that will get you more in the mood than listening to our students and rejoice and sing and show us their talents. So thank you.
And that's a lovely segue into what I was going to talk about. For those who aren't aware, the board and the municipal assembly meets quarterly, and we had our quarterly meeting here in our chambers last Friday, and we kicked that off with some wonderful singing from the Service High School choirs, and enjoyed that very much. I've also enjoyed, just by happenstance, being in various places in the community. I had to drop something off at the VA, and sure enough, there was Bartlett there, the world language students, and they were singing in French, Spanish, German, and Mandarin Chinese. And then I stopped. I had about 30 minutes to kill before a meeting when I was downtown, and I said, I'm going to stop at the Captain Cook and look at that wonderful chocolate village. And sure enough, there was Denali Elementary Montessori students there doing a I Spy activity to increase their visual acuity, and also to enjoy the smell of that wonderful chocolate village. And it was a great opportunity. Plus, I love when they have students walk on their field trips because they get extra PE for the day. So that was wonderful. Going back to the joint school board assembly meeting, again, that's an opportunity for us to have opportunities to ask questions, to pursue areas of common interest. As many of you are aware, we continue to pursue areas that we can do shared services. We've done an enormous amount in the last year, and a lot of congratulations go to both our staff and the municipal staff in order to make those things happen. But we continue to pursue ways that we can share services and be more efficient in our use of taxpayer dollars. Finally, another thing that happens very regularly and is useful in informing the board is our capital projects and construction tours that are offered at schools that are either currently on the bond or are in the line for higher priority than others. And so we have an opportunity to go over on site and take tours and see some of the issues and opportunities there. And I thank the staff for providing those opportunities to raise our level of awareness and education. So, and with that, Mr. Donley.
Thank you, Madam President. I had the opportunity to visit with Kasum PTA, and we talked about the process by which some of the SBS students from Mount Iliamna were placed into that school. And I was just wondering what kind of follow-up the district was doing with those schools and those because I know they had meetings with the folks at the school, the staff and the parents before the school year, but are we going to have additional meetings to follow up with them to get their input on how things are going?
Is that something you want to report, or do you want to speak to that?
Madam President, we can certainly report on that, but at this point in time, the principals, that's part of the school, and so the ongoing conversations are actually with the leader of the school, Anita Stevens, and so they can direct their questions there, and then we can hear from her, or if we're invited to speak. I mean, I'm not sure the outcome that they're...
Okay, well, and you know how this is, everybody has their own frame of reference, their own memories about things. They had the impression that there was going to be a meeting after a period of time where the district heard from them about how things were going. And they were wondering when that was going to occur. So
sure. That's more about maybe a survey or go to their school. We can establish something like that if that's the outcome that they would like. Yeah. I just wasn't sure in your
well, I got
comments that they...
Yeah, I got that impression from them.
That's
but,
absolutely
But of course, I don't speak for all the community there. Just at the meeting I was at, I got that feeling from them, and I was just wondering if there was any process in place where something like that was going to happen.
That's absolutely easy, and the most efficient way is right within that school community so that we can hear immediately from the school principal, but we can work in conjunction with the school principal if they'd like it to be a broader sense. That's absolutely a good idea. We'll follow through on that.
Mr. Holleman.
One last quick one. As a South Anchorage Rotarian, each year we distribute a dictionary to every third grade student in the district. I'm doing a couple of the schools, and contrary to popular culture, third graders are honored and excited to receive a dictionary that's like this thick that has very few pictures in it. They're really gracious. I mean, the kids really are like honored that they're being given this thing. They're excited about it, and they still love books. So it's a lot of fun.
Thank you very much. I know that's a project South Rotary's been doing for many, many years. Another plus in our community. So with that, I'd like to wish everybody a marvelous holiday season, and to the staff starting on Saturday for a lovely break. The same to my fellow board members. And with that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
If I have a second? Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
We are adjourned.
Dr. Bishop, take a picture with our WVT president or Dr. Bishop. I want to interview you.